All right. You all can see my screen. Yes, I have a Blackboard course open. Good. So in my course, the first thing I want to walk through is just locating Ally inside my course. And again, as I had showcased, there are going to be gauges. If you have not seen them, what you're going to be looking for inside your course is something similar to this. So in my class, I have a syllabus, and with that syllabus as a Word document, there's an adjacent two icons, the first one being that accessibility score gauge. So again, most of you have probably seen this. If not, this is where you're going to find it inside the course. Now, if I keep my mouse hovered over a gauge, you will see what the level is. This one is currently high, which is fantastic. But at the same time, it's not perfect. So again, there are some items I can and still could improve upon this, and we'll see that in just a bit. To the right of it, we have that alternative formats icon, that A with the drop-down arrow. This is where I can download those alternative formats as a user. And I say user, not specifically learner, because you as a faculty member or a peer that might be in the course might require or need an alternative format as well. So a user can actually, inside your course, acquire that alternative format. And we'll look at those later on just as well as in this session. On the right-hand side of your course, we all have our details and actions menu. If we look a little further below, we should see books and tools. There is view course and institutional tools here. Just click on that link and you should find accessibility report. Now, this is going to be your overall course report with Ally. Ally is, like I mentioned earlier, reviews all of your course content that you've uploaded into the course or keyed in. It's going to use that machine learning and checklist to understand what's in the course, what meets and doesn't meet those standards, and then it's going to provide us those that guidance. And as an Ally, this is very important to me because it can be very time consuming just going through the entirety of the course and just going line by line. This is showing me in an overall holistic view, what are the items I need to actually address? What are things that are immediately that I can work on? And here I'm at 69%, so I'm not that too far off from 70. I'm very close to that 90 percentile, which I want to try to achieve. Of course, everybody wants to achieve 100%, but I'm very close. So from this standpoint, I can see I have 18 items that are keyed into the course. And if I scroll down, I can actually see what the issues are. So it might be a scanned PDF that is not OCR, optically character recognized. So that's one item I'm definitely going to showcase to you all. But also there's document with contrast issues, images without a description. These are also very common at other institutions that I've personally not only worked at, but have assisted with as well. So you're not alone when you counter very similar issues like this within your courses, but they do add up. So when you are working with an Ally or working towards meeting that goal of being fully accessible, you want to take the approach of take it day by day. Small incremental improvements. You don't have to do it all in one go. You don't have to also, as it was shared, delete the entire course and start from scratch. So we don't want to do that. We want to be, tactical in how things are being done. And it might vary from subject matter to subject matter, but also remember you have the assistance by the team here at South Plains College. You have Heather, you have Amy, and as you saw earlier, you have the support of Dr. Gibbs. So not only that, you also have the support from Andre and myself. So we want to just make sure this is a team effort. We want to make sure we get to that next milestone to meet accessibility at South Plains College. So recap. Inside our course, we have our gauges associated with any items we upload into our course. And on the right-hand side, we have under details and actions, books and tools, our accessibility report. Okay. This is where we're going to kind of reference in just a bit as well. Let's take a quick look though, because although there is a gauge here, there is no gauge associated with this about your instructor. And this is actually a document I keyed in. So I want to make sure that, hey, there's areas that aren't visually showing the accessibility icon here, but it is being recognized inside of the report, inside of Books and Tools, Accessibility Report. There are some images that have no description. So I'm going to show you where that image is, and then we'll see how the score is changed after the fact. So I'm going to About Your Instructor. And within here, I have Dr. Santiago Reynolds' image along with his introduction to the course. So if you can see on this image, I have a red score gauge, right? It's at a low. So if I want to find out why it's low, I'm going to click on it. And on the right-hand side, we have our feedback panel. It tells us the title of the file, its score, and then what actually is occurring. So this image does not have a meaningful description. So if we click on what this means, and I highly recommend that you do, it'll actually tell you what an image description is. In this case, you all have heard us say it as alternative text. Why it's important. If you click on these arrows at the bottom, you will get that answer of why. And again, if you will hear it from me today, you may have heard it yesterday, but it's always good as a refresher as to why accessibility matters. This is going to tell you the reason why it needs to be addressed in the class. And again, it's going to provide that clear context for the description or the image. Students with visual impairments that might require the use of a screen reader are going to leverage that alternative text as well. Or if a student is in a low internet, area where bandwidth is not that great, images might not render, that alternative text is going to be displayed to the students so that they can understand what the image would have been. So there's a lot of reasons, again, other than just students have visual impairments, where this can provide support to all learners. But that all begins inside that feedback panel. Ally provides you what this means, and also even how to write a good description. So currently we see Dr. Reynolds here. And if I click on how to write a good description, how nifty is that? It's going to give you an example of what a quality alternative text would be. In this case, we have an example here of grown in biofuel image, a gentleman out in the field. So it basically states there, a farmer standing in a field of yellow canola crops with a sign in the foreground reading, grown for biofuel. Now, here's another thing. Remember those two arrows in the bottom? Keep going through them. You'll see other examples of poor and good versions of alternative text as well. One of them, which is what's being flagged currently, is a poor description. And that's what we see. It's just the file name being added to the alternative text instead of meaningful text. So rather than just having a description of the image itself, it's the file name. So this is just giving us an example. And it's always good as a refresher what that is. And this kind of represents both. If you hit next again, you'll get another example. But also what's so important is context. So in a history class, this image might be a field covered with poppies, and poppies have become a symbol of remembrance in World War I. While in an art class, it might be discussing that this is a post-impressionistic painting by Van Gogh. So this is where it becomes very important when you're actually writing alternative text or these descriptions for the images to provide the right context this image is being used for. Heather, I see your hand raised.
While we're talking about images, will you address images that are used in testing situations so the descriptions do not give away the answer?
Yes. Oh, actually, that's actually very important. And when it comes to images inside the assessment, you want to provide descriptions that basically kind of only give away what you just basically need to intend. This goes back to context. If you have an image and the assessment is who painted this picture, I'm not going to say Van Gogh. it's going to be something. This is a post-impressionistic picture with dramatic brushstrokes, etc. But again, it goes back to what is the context of the question, how is it going to be answered, and what's going to be, the purpose of it. So again, very important thing to highlight. Thank you, Heather, for that. Even for those that use maybe more complex images like graphs and charts, there might be a necessity for the students to read and interpret that data. So it might be something very similar. I might not give away the full horse and carriage in my alternative description, but I will still give you enough information to help support you to understand what's there visually. Ergo, this next example, as I mentioned, if you need a refresher, this goes back to coming into an item like this and how do I write a good description? At the very bottom, toggle those arrows. There's a lot of great information in there. And then this goes back to writing complex or a description for a complex image like this as well. And again, if you need additional context or room for information, it might also be better to put that inside of the context, like the text surrounding the image as well. So that way it supports the alternative text with it. So a lot of things to consider, but at the same time, everything is, being supported through this process of what you're seeing here. All right, decorative images. Make sure that the image that you mark as decorative is decorative. If it is not, you're adding that additional barrier for the students. If I am required to read and review this image and it's marked as decorative, it's going to basically walk past it. As if I'm in a screen reader, it's going to ignore it. But again, I was meant to review it. So be wise in how you label things as decorative and non-decorative, or not decorative, or purposefully add alternative text. So this is very important. This is just a quick example. Usually there's like images that are for aesthetic purposes that you would quickly mark as decorative. But in this case, I have a portrait or a image of my professor. So I'm gonna add purposeful text. So on the right-hand side in that feedback panel, I think some of you see it right below the red box that says the image description can't be the same as the file name. So we already understand that. But below it, you have a bit of assistance there, and that's going to be that auto-generate description. You're welcome to leverage that. That is support with our AI design assistant inside of Ally to give you that support to help write these descriptions or give you at least some support. Because again, as I mentioned, context is everything. So if I were to press auto-generate description, it might give me information about who the instructor or the individual is, not necessarily the name, but an instructor with dreadlocks gestures while teaching a painting class with students seated at easels surrounded by sunflower artworks. How nifty is that? Giving a clear description of what's actually being presented there. Now, this is Dr. Reynolds, so I'm going to just maybe make a quick change here. And hit save. And as I do, notice how the gauge automatically jumps from that 25% to that 100. Now, this one image has been addressed. I can hit close. That red Ally score gauge has now been changed to green, to perfect, to keep my mouse over it. And that's one less item I don't have to address moving forward. Because again, if this course is also accessible, when I reteach it next semester, I'm bringing that over with its all updated items. So now looking in this area, what else do I have available to me? I have text. Inside this text, if I were to edit this about your instructor, I'm also going to be given an Ally score gauge on the top right-hand corner of the document. When I click on or hover my mouse over this, it's going to tell me my accessibility score is 88% and click to see what to improve. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that. And one of the things inside of my document that needs to be improved upon is the table. Now, if you didn't know, it's best practice and to meet WCAG standards to have headings inside of your tables. Those headings ensure that students with accessibility or with the need of screen readers can actively navigate through the table and get references as to how the data is to be interpreted based off those headings. So visually, we can see those are headings based on that emphasized text of artists known for key technique and module, but a screen reader wouldn't interpret it that way. So we have to tell it. So the HTML markup behind it has to be updated to say that is a heading. However, I don't need you to be HTML experts, coders, etc. The only thing you would need to do is mark it as a table heading. Now, I clicked on that gauge in the top right-hand corner of the document. On the right-hand side, under the feedback panel, it's going to tell me, like I shared earlier, what this means. Same thing as I shared with you just now. Why table headings are important is listed here and there. And I can already correct this by selecting that apply table header dropdown in the right-hand side. So I can say the first row is a header, the first column is a header, or the first row and column are headers. Now, if I want to be proactive though, and if I'm building tables inside of my course, if I scroll down to that table, another thing you will see is that in this table, in the content editor, you see here that I can already label this table with a header row and a header column if needed inside that text editor. So if you are building tables, please don't overlook that. You also have this little eye icon to give you information as to, again, why it's important to have those header cells labeled accordingly. So we want to make sure we're addressing that inside of our course when it comes to tables. Now, it might not be flagged necessarily in Ally, but again, it is best practice inside just basic text editing. Leverage your text styles for the use of headings. Visually created headings, you're basically highlighting, making them emphasize with the bolded text, changing the size, but all that can be done with the style. So if we have a heading like this and it's just emphasized, that's all it is. Like, again, for tabulation screen readers, we want to leverage that heading style if we're going to have a important impacted piece of text inside a long list of text that faculty, or in this case, the users are going to read, or in this case, learners. What's also very important when it comes to headings such as this is looking at the document as a whole. So if I have a heading structure, such as title up above, then I may have here my header, again, H1, H2, and then I might have a subheading called office hours. So again, I'm following a heading structure that is staggered to the point where it's ensuring that the information that's being followed is chunked, but also it's, again, moving forward, is readable for those with a screen reader, and they can just tabulate to those key landmarks inside of this text. Links at the bottom, we want to make sure that they're also purposefully written. The first one's a good example of that. It has not only the name and a description of what to expect upon its clicking, but some information with it. Does not mean you have to have it set up that way, but still, it's writing purposeful text with your links. If best practice also, if you have a link such as this, again, give it a proper name. Give it to what students that are going to click on it going to expect to see, other than a link as it is, just raw, or click here. Because again, this does not just tell me what to expect. It's just almost like a surprise situation. So upon clicking it, we can see here we have this amazing resource already provided to you all, which is the online course accessibility checklist. So things of this nature, I want my learner to know what to expect. So if you have links inside your course, like you see here, take the time also to provide a more robust, more meaningful link text. And that's all being done here in that text editor. And these are just common best practices, making sure that we use the right headings. We're using heading structures, again, for our text. We're using headings for our tables. Tables are used in a data, it's representing content in a data forward kind of way, where I am not using it for formatting purposes. And then when it comes to links, that they're purposeful in their way they're labeled. Okay, just hit save for now. Close this out. We're done with About Your Instructor for the time being. Let's take a quick jump out and look at that post-impressionism syllabus and kind of see what's going on in there. So I'm going to click on that real quick and wait for the preview to load. But on the right-hand side, we have a 95%. So fantastic. What does that mean when it comes to the text has insufficient contrast? Well, on the left-hand side, we can see those indicators already highlighting where that insufficient contrast is coming from. And if in this case, some of you might experience this, the indicators themselves might be blocking things, or it might be a little disruptive. You can always hide them by clicking that little eye icon in the very top space, just like that. So you can get a full view of what you needed to address. And in this case, that text has an insufficient contrast. That shade of blue, it's a little too light for a white background. Apologies for that. So again, what does this mean? Color contrast is that difference between the brightness between the text color and the background, not to mention those that have a visual impairment or color vision deficiencies. It might affect them, especially those that are, again, color blind, etc. But it doesn't have to, again, be regarding a disability. You can have also low quality monitors where the glare isn't the best, and it will make the situation even a little bit harder to read. So it's, adding to the issue. But you can definitely have this fixed, not with an ally, because ally in this scenario is only indicating what needs to be addressed. And this is a Word document. So then I would need to open up Word and make the correction with the text color. And then I can re-upload it into Ally in this space right here. And I can have this replaced. So let's take a quick look at that. First, how to fix it. This is very important because, again, this goes back to how do I fix what's currently indicated? Well, this is definitely in Word, and I can fix this in probably Office 365. And it's going to give you that line-by-line method to correct this issue. So not only locating the text, but then changing the contrast of the text as well. In this case, highlighting it and changing the color to something a little bit more darker, saving it, and then re-uploading it. And if I hit next from here, I do have an example of that for us to look at. Here's that text once more. It is a little bit of a light shaded blue. I'm going to upload a updated version of this. And while it updates, I'm going to take a quick swig of water. Let me try once more. If my internet's running a little too slow, I apologize for that. Do it once more. There we go. Perfect. Not just the situation of the internet, but also the score. So the contrast has been addressed. It was just made into a little darker shade of blue. And again, I apologize. I believe my internet is starting to get a little slow. So in the event that my audio or in my video cuts out, please let me know. There is some like storms coming around that might be causing this. Regardless, we have a updated version of this syllabus. If it takes a little too long to preview, I apologize for that. But the important process to consider of this is on the right-hand side, that feedback panel is going to give us the update, whether or not that the file needs to be changed, why it needs to be changed, and how. If I go back to that details and actions and click on that books and tools link to go back to that accessibility report, I can see that my score, which was in the high 60s, has now bumped down to 74. So you get that immediate gratification and feedback from allies showing you that the work that you're actually doing in the course is making that much more of an impact. So don't, when we talk about incremental updates and changes, this is what we're meaning of going through the course. You can go two strategies. You can work inside of books and tools and click on your accessibility report and work on those issues line by line. Or if you are refining your course, you can go through your course line by line, making sure that the documents are up to date anyways, that there's links and dates and times are correct, and then address it that way. So you pick on how you want to be tactical on addressing accessibility in the course, but I just wanted to kind of share that to you all. Now, let's try this once more. I'm going to click on this Van Gogh, have another Word document here, just as an example. There we go. Now this Word document, we can already see some items just visually, if you didn't know. One, we might have a contrast issue just with that summary of Van Gogh's life. It's a very light gray on white text. So if I click on this score, you can kind of see what my Word document's called, all wrong. But still, when it uploads, and again, apologies for this, it should show us all the indicators where everything is having issues. If it doesn't pop up, that's okay. I'll jump to something else. But what's important, again, is that right-hand side. If that's going to give us a little too much, not run too much quick, then let me move on to another item here. And that's going to be what we saw in our course report and was our most severe item. And that was a document that is scanned but not OCR'd. So if some of you have scanned PDFs inside your courses, maybe lab items, things that are, critical to the course, but also were scanned years ago, it's important that we make sure that at least the text is recognizable first and foremost. So that way students with the screen reader can at least interpret it. Otherwise, if it's just a plain image within the PDF, it cannot be discerned. So one way to go about fixing this or us aiding in this process is with Ally. This was an update made last year, and I can just tell you, everybody was excited when this happened, was being able to alter PDFs and make them optically character recognized. So a scanned PDF that you may have had in the past, and again, I apologize the preview is taking so long. That's on my end. I can click on preview and apply. And as the scanned image is being reviewed, and it'd probably be best if I open up maybe another tab so you can see what that item is while this is being corrected. So this is what it means for a scanned image, and some that you probably have witnessed before. This is something that I cannot click and select text within. And this is usually a very simple test to see whether or not your PDF is OCR'd or not. If I cannot click within the PDF and click and hold my mouse down and highlight the text, it basically means it's not OCR'd. So if I can't highlight text, that means a computer cannot recognize it. And if a computer cannot recognize it, then a screen reader itself wouldn't be able to recognize it as well. So if I were to correct it, which I did earlier, and I know I jumped out, I apologize for that. But if I click on the gauge, try to make the correction for it, to make this scan PDF OCR, I only need to click on this preview and apply. So that way we can actually have it fixed and then apply it. As it applies, it's going to recalculate it. That score was originally at 0. Now it's been bumped up to 35. So again, so much better than just 0%, right? We already now have a new starting path forward to make these corrections to this PDF. Now, I can bump this up 1 more %, and that's by giving this a title. And the title itself, I think it was managing, if I'm not mistaken, managing teams, something to that effect. I can apply that fix, giving it a proper title. This is just not only just a document, but PDF standpoint, making sure that it's being recognized moving forward by screen readers. And then have it recalculate. It'll move up to 36th percentile, but I'll still have to do additional work, such as adding necessary tagging to this. If I have the original file, which I probably don't because it's a scanned PDF, I would then need to do additional work, probably in Adobe Acrobat, etc., to begin tagging this as well. Just a quick question to Heather and Amy. Is there any resources faculty can use for PDFs at their disposal at South Plains College?
I have no idea. Honestly, that's a Kayla question, but we will look into it.
No worries. I do want to I didn't mean to just jump in with a question like that out of the gate, but I do want to kind of share. It goes back to, we're at 0%. We're now at 35. Now, I would like to advocate that if you haven't had a relationship with the library, start building it with them. If you don't want to, but if you feel that some of these materials that were scanned back ago as articles can be sourced as digital copies, reach out to a librarian to see if they can provide assistance. There's probably already a digital version of this already made accessible somewhere that they could probably provide you support to go ahead and grab that. So wanted to kind of share that with you all as well. And I apologize for my loading. Shouldn't do this on my end. I know my internet is being a little wonky. Another thing I do want to kind of share with in Ally is going back to items with complex images. This goes back to what I shared before. If you have an image that you uploaded and just kind of through the motions, you're just kind of uploading with some haste, we might sometimes forget to add that alternative text. And that's what results in that red gauge, because it doesn't have that impactful, meaningful text. It's just a file name. But with items such as a complex image like that we saw that with that chart, we can select that auto generate description and have it basically start a bit of alternative text for us. This goes back to what I shared though with context and what Heather had just brought up with regards to if this chart may have been in an assessment, we don't want to give everything away, but we do want to make sure that we're giving information as to what's actually there. Which is this one right there. So this in particular image is of the 2014 first quarter views visitors for example.com. And we can see the comparison of site 1, 2, and 3 and their totals. So that auto generate button, which again was added last year, which is fantastic just to kind of get things going for your images, provides you that bit of support to write that alternative text. So in this case, it's saying that bar chart showing website visitor numbers for 3 sites, which is what we saw, with each site having data for January, February, and a total. Is that enough? Possibly. I might want to maybe draw some emphasis that the first site, which was site 1, had 350 visitors with the most, or I want to maybe kind of highlight that, site 3 had the least. So I would need to do my diligence as the faculty and the course creator to make that alterations. But so far, I feel content with what's being shared. Again, I only need to press save, make sure that alternative text has been applied, and now I'm at a perfect 100. Close that off. What if I have written text like this? Now, it needs to still be legible, but again, the tool is amazing when it comes to that. If I hit auto generate text, it should be able to read what is written. In this case, this is a test, handwritten in black ink on lined paper. So it's giving a bit of a description of what's actually visually there on the image to provide some assistance with that as well. So very cool tool to have in your repertoire of other skill sets that you all have to work towards accessibility and meeting the needs for Title II, as well as working towards that 90 percentile Dr. Gibbs had mentioned for South Plains College. We're getting close to time. And I apologize for the hiccups that we saw today with my internet not showing the full screen at some point. But I do want to open the floor to some questions.